In this video, we're going to view the sequence defined by range objects. So let's create a range object, and we'll just create one we did before. So the range from 0 to 8 is stepping by 1. Let's go ahead and look at this object. So Python, whenever you create a range object, you will not see all of the integers in that sequence. And there's a good reason for that, and I'll explain that in a bit. But first, let me show you how can you view all of those integers. Let's just say I want to know specifically what is in this range object. Well, you can pass it to the list constructor. So here we're going to bring up this list constructor for the very first time. This is similar to the range constructor in that it is a factory that produces new lists. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pass in R over here. This is our range. And when I do this, you will create a list that shows every integer in that sequence. So it takes the range object and it says, all right, let's go ahead and make a list out of it and create every single integer in that sequence into a list. All right, so you might be wondering, why is this happening? Why doesn't the range object just show me these numbers in the first place? Well, that's not the point of the range object. The range object is just to define the sequence, not to actually produce it. It's similar to saying, all right, what if someone asks you the question, can you count from 100 to 200 by tens? Okay, so the range object is able to set this up. When you actually count them, right, and produce that sequence, that's like passing it to the list constructor and viewing the sequence. So it just says, it just kind of defines the sequence, the range object. It doesn't actually create it until it is needed. So we'll talk about this a little bit later on. It's a little bit tricky to see without an example. But for now, we're just going to use the list constructor in order to view the sequence defined by range objects. Let's create a new range. Let's go ahead and do the same one. Let's go from 100 to 200 by 10. So our start value is 100, our stop value is 200, our step is 10. I'm not going to assign it to a variable first. You can just place it right inside the list constructor like this. So Python will execute this first. It'll create that range object, and then it'll pass it into the list constructor. And then you can see all of the integers in that sequence. All right, let's just do one more. And this time I will just assign it to its own variable first. Let's go down. So from 200 to 50 going by negative 25s. So we'll start at 200, we'll go to 50, and we'll step down by negative 25. And I will pass this object into the list constructor. So now we're going to go down. It's going to return a list, and it'll show all of the integers in that sequence. So remember, this is the stop value. It is not included. It's up to, but not including this stop value. Okay, so that's how you view the sequence defined by a range. You can create the range and then pass it to the list constructor.